Hi.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Had to unmute.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, there. I think I'm all set up. So, all right. Hi, Nichole. I'm Anna Pombetti.
Hi, nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm chairman of the board for Generation Now.
Okay.
So Renika and I are tag teaming on the discussion for this evening. And
Okay,
so
great.
basically, I'll just sort of kick things off at the very beginning. Renika will take over and moderate from that point on, and we'll take it from there. So thank you, by the way, first of all, for joining the meeting and for doing this discussion. Very much appreciated.
You're welcome.
I have a brief bio about you, actually, for each of the speakers as well. And so Renika gave us some back. I'd like to run it by you real quick just to make sure I've captured everything accurately, if that's okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So with enterprise, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you have over 25 years experience in talent acquisition management?
21 years in talent acquisition, but 26 years with the company.
Got it. All right. Thank you for that. 21 years experience, but 26 total. Got it. All right. And then 5 years as an adjunct professor at UC?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And were you teaching courses in talent acquisition, human resources?
No, business, professionalism, and character. I look really yellow. I'm looking like I feel like I have too much light on me.
Well, hey, it's I'm looking at myself also. I'm like, do I really look like that? Yeah, probably. So, I know I just got to deal with it. So for me, at least, I do. So let me see. Also, and then you are also our professor for our first mini course coming up next month on the 10th of December at 5:30. That's a free introductory class to young professionals.
10th of December, Renika?
10th of December?
Is that what we said? 10th of December? I thought it was January.
I had 10th of December.
Well, we'll talk offline. We'll figure that out.
December 10th is what we stated.
Okay. We talked about a lot of things, but I haven't talked to you in 2 weeks. So.
Yeah. Anapa, we have
Yes.
the guests in. We're going to get them in their breakout sessions.
Got it.
And so you can announce the breakout sessions. We'll give it a couple of more minutes to see who else shows up. So then we can get everyone into breakout sessions.
Okay. All right, great. And then, I think that's it. Did I miss anything? And that was it, basically, as far as an introduction. Anything else you would like me to mention up front?
No, you're asking me or Renika?
Sorry, you. I'm sorry.
I'm fine.
Right.
I'm going to try to adjust my. It's like I have jaundice or something. I'm trying to adjust how I'm looking right now.
So Renika, I've got some folks coming in, saying they've entered the waiting room. All right.
Hello, AJ. So I want to wait a couple of more minutes to see who else shows up, and then I was gonna send everybody into their breakout sessions.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, how are you?
So as far as Renika, as far as the order of things are concerned, you were talking about the breakout rooms. Are we, the people who are attending, you're going to be putting them in the breakout rooms with us to do the Q&A, or Q&A for everybody?
It's just a networking session for about 20
Okay.
minutes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And so I was just waiting for more guests,
Okay.
so I can see how many breakout rooms to make.
Mhm.
I was in a breakout room with someone else and they disappeared.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand what happened. Yeah, I seen that. They disappeared.
We were talking and she was gone.
Sorry about that.
I'm
How to
trying to-
figure that out? It's the tech.
It was probably a Wi-Fi issue.
Mhm.
It's 5:30, everybody's coming home.
Yeah.
So,
Now it's just me and you.
that's okay.
Yeah.
So how do you say your first name, Renika or Renika?
Renika.
Renika, I'm Robin. I am the Assistant Director for Career Services at Thomas More University in Northern Kentucky. And how about you?
My name is Renika Smalley. I'm the founder and CEO of Generation Now. Sorry, just kind of things were kind of different today, trying to see what the issue was. I hope everybody comes back. I never seen that happen before. This is our second virtual event.
Well, I've only run one event myself. I wish I could offer you some advice, but it was a whirlwind.
Yeah, I'm waiting for everybody to come back in.
All right. So Renika, where are you physically? Are you in the Cincinnati area, somewhere
Yes,
else?
I'm in Cincinnati.
Okay. Looks like you have way too much sunshine. That's got to be lamplight. It looks like you've got sun streaming in there.
Hello, we had something happening. Everybody lose? Did everybody have to come back on? Where everybody in the
Yeah,
breakout sections?
I switched devices. One, I need to get off my phone so I could charge.
The clock started running on the breakout session, and then it ended up bringing everybody back.
Yeah, some people got lost. Some people got lost. I don't know. This is our second event, but I want to introduce. I want to welcome everyone to our second virtual event. This event was highly anticipated. I believe that the actual election kind of took a lot of the attention from the marketing of the event. And so last month's event, we did very well. I think we had like 100 guests on. And so a lot of people were excited and we had a good time. And so I'm glad it's kind of smaller this time because that gives time for even a few people that's on the event to actually ask some of their Q&A questions. And so briefly, I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves and talk about one different career obstacle that they're having to the guests and the panelists, or best feedback for panelists, whatever you like to do. So I'll start with Robin Norton.
Hello, my name is Robin Norton. I am the Assistant Director for Career Development at Thomas More University in Northern Kentucky. And Renika, tell me the questions again. I'm sorry.
Oh, the question was, thank you, Robin, for joining us this evening. Do you have any career obstacle questions of your own that you feel like you need essential feedback on?
I really was attended with the thought of my students in mind, but if I think of my own perspective.
Or even for your students, what do you think students need help with for career advancement?
Everything. Actually, I think really it's connecting with them and getting them to understand the degree of preparedness they need to have in any climate, but in this climate in particular, and to understand the value of connecting with employers early and often during their time in college. And ultimately that becomes an issue of internal marketing, but those are my messages that I'm trying to get out there and I struggle with.
Absolutely. Laura, would you like to introduce yourself and talk about how you kind of overcame some of your hurdles or hurdles that you still see?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I really relate to what Robin said. I am a 2019 graduate of Spelman College, and I'm a UX writer at Spotify right now. So I think one of the biggest challenges I think I had was like allowing myself to pivot and like understanding that like all journeys aren't linear. So I really had to, I taught my first year out of college and then transitioned into a tech role. And I had to remember like being an educator, being a teacher was like very essential to me getting to this next step at like Spotify and at a company. I'm sorry, I'm about to start ranting, so I'm gonna stop. But I think that was the biggest one. Just remembering that all journeys aren't like linear. You have to allow some of the bumps to occur.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for your response, Laura, especially being from a recent college graduate from Spelman. So I think that's a lot of great help from recent graduates. And and the fact that you were able to overcome those hurdles to achieve a full-time position, especially with the time we're in now in the country. Nichole, would you like to introduce yourself?
You're on mute.
I just realized that. My name is Nichole Sims. I'm a talent acquisition manager with Enterprise Holdings, which is Enterprise Rental Car, Alamo Rental Car, and National Car Rental. I've been there for 26 years. I've been in recruiting for 21 years. And I was an adjunct professor at UC from 2015 to 2019, teaching business professionalism and character. As far as, I'm going to say, I see this in people coming into our entry-level position, as well as a struggle that I had as a new employee back in 1994. But anyway, resilience. When you're young and you're just starting out, you have this idea of perfection that you're going to get from your job. And when you hit a bump in the road, I think the first inclination is to flee. And I see that a lot with our new hires. And as far as how I overcame it, I mean, I tried that. I had a manager I just did not get along with. She did not care for me to this day. I have no idea why. And you see how delightful I am. So I don't understand. But anyway, so I didn't get along with her, and I actually interviewed with another company. And I'm very glad I didn't get the job with the other company, because that company is no longer in business. And they didn't have the advancement that we have where I am now. And then I interviewed in another division within the company, and it was not the right position for me. I realized that as I was sitting in the interview, and I began to pray that they did not offer me the job because I didn't want it. So what I did at that point, I had to take stock of what I was doing. Is this something I really want to do? And just resolved that I was not going to let somebody else determine my career for me, that I was going to buckle down. I was going to do what I had to do and not give her a reason to get rid of me. And here I am, and she's been gone a lot of years. So.
Anupam, would you like to introduce yourself and speak about a career hurdle?
So hi everyone. So my name is Anupam Betty. I'm the chairman of the board for Generation Now. I joined the organization just a little more than a month ago, so relatively new, but fairly up to speed on a number of different activities that are going on. And the big appeal for me, first of all, for joining the organization was the fact that it focused around talent development, workforce development, professional development, pick your term. And while we do work, focus on the word young, which isn't necessarily to bracket a certain age group per se, what I found, and for me, I've been working in in the industry for over 20 years in the corporate world and whatnot. So I'm dating myself just a bit, but I found that the challenges for workforce development also don't just necessarily apply to the young, but also those that are more experienced, for a number of individuals who find themselves at a career crossroads. Never mind what's going on regarding the pandemic, but also if they're at a certain stage of their career and their development, and they're looking to go the version 2.0 of themselves, and say, I'm trying to get more digital. I want to start my own company, or I'm having questions about where my career path is going and looking to make a shift. Those are the kind of conversations that I'm finding with other peers of myself, both in the industry and the experience level, also who are asking a lot of the same questions that a number of younger professionals, recent graduates, are asking as well, working in now in this virtual environment. So for me, I worked in the corporate environment. I went back to school to get my MBA last year. I left the corporate world and I've been working as an independent advisor and a consultant, and also working in the startup environment as well. So for me, I've also wrestled with that personally and that career crossroads, both very early in my career and now. And that's part of why we're having the conversations that we're having today. So really appreciate everybody joining the conversation today, and looking forward to hearing much more.
Thank you so much, Anupam. AJ Johnson, would you like to introduce yourself, ma'am?
Sure. My given name is Autumn, but nobody remembers that. I always end up something else, Amber, Andre, or something else.
My cousin name too. I'm a
Everybody
fall
calls me
baby, so
AJ. Yeah, well, I'm summer one. But I work in talent acquisition as well. Heard somebody else say that. Right now, before that, I've worked for an RPO firm. I've done corporate, I've done agency, I've done staffing, and yeah, I've been everywhere. Um, I did a career transition about 2011 to recruiting. Before that, I worked in marketing and advertising. A lot of diversity from Madison Avenue and things like that. Imagine being in the Midwest, in the Mid-South. It's probably worse. Um, Especially when you work with firms outside of the region. I worked for mechanics and I didn't work for the regional independents and things like that. So price myself out of markets and experience myself out of markets, clients myself out of markets. They didn't want to talk to me because I had more experience than their regional firms got. But so I came into recruitment. I do enjoy talent acquisition, helping people, I guess, discover their career path per se. I hate the administrative, metrics-driven stuff that I've been in the last several years. So that's kind of where I am now. I'm trying to move more towards talent development. I really love discussions on internal mobility, but I also think if I'm gonna stay in recruitment, I'm gonna have to go independent and be a headhunter where I don't have to keep up with people's background checks and drug screens. So I know this, I'm wiping this out. It's frustrating.
That's funny.
Uh,
I was in recruitment and human resource too, so I know how it is to check people's background.
But yeah, I follow conversations across the industry, broadly on different areas. I like to hear about tech, but as soon as people start talking about certain, softwares and stuff, I just tune out. And I have a telecom degree that I never used. But you know, I follow university recruitment. There's some really interesting things that we've learned from COVID through about the internships that have been had by different companies, the tech ones and the more mainstream brands. Because I don't have the full screen up. I'm sorry, I'm double timing here.
Oh, you're fine.
But the one who works for the Northern Kentucky College, and I'm in Louisville, so I'm down the road. But the one who works for
Oh,
the college, we're finding that the students do want these on-site internships if they can get them. They're not liking this virtual stuff. They want to be hands-on, front-facing with other professionals. So there's a lot to
yeah, especially with
right.
school right now,
It's
since
virtual,
everything is
yeah.
so virtual.
But yeah, so like I said, for me myself, I know I'm moving towards entrepreneurship, but professionally, I still do want to get. Um, I want to move into another path. Like I said, less of the frontline recruiting, more strategy development, internal mobility, and so that's kind of where I am.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for introducing yourself, Autumn, and you have an amazing journey. And thank you for coming to attend an event tonight from Louisville, Kentucky. So we appreciate that. And if we can have the fantastic Kenneth Johnson, president of East Coast Executives, diversity and leadership recruitment consultant, TEDx Harlem organizer, Forbes coach, introduce himself and the hurdles he see for young professionals or people in the career force or hurdles he had.
All of that, and all you had to do is say, I'm the newly found cousin of Autumn Johnson. That's all you had to say.
Newly found cousin of Autumn Johnson.
Always good to have another Johnson on, Autumn, and pleasure. Thank you so very much, Renika, for inviting me to be here. I almost didn't make it. I was in a torrential rainstorm on the Jersey Turnpike trying to get back to Memphis.
Oh, wow.
And I literally had to stop downtown at a friend's house, and I'm in his hallway. Like right now, I'm like, you got to set me up in your hallway because I don't want to miss this. I made a commitment and I promised to be there for this.
I appreciate you being here, making that commitment.
So my name's Kenneth L Johnson. I'm the president of the Harlem, New York-based diversity recruitment firm, East Coast Executives, and some of that other stuff that Renika shared as well. But really, our focus is diversity, workplace diversity, just diversity recruitment in general. And that's the work we do. So I'm just excited to be here to kind of speak from that perspective. It sounds like Autumn got that under control though, but I'm just happy to be here with all of the workforce and talent acquisition professionals that are here on this platform today. This is amazing. So thank you so very much for including me.
Sorry, absolutely. And thank you so much, Kenneth. Julie Myers, would you like to introduce yourself? She's one of our loyal event generation X and baby boomer who has been joining our event since the first event since 2015 when we were at Igby's. She followed us from Igby's all the way to the corporate offices, networking with every young professional and panel in the room. She is one of our like loyal members, even without being a millennial or Gen Zer herself. We proclaimed her as a member, and we love her loyalty. She never misses an event. So you want to go, Julia?
Hi there, guys. I try not to miss anything, and that I consider myself a networker and connector in that. And I had a career as a graphic artist, an art director. I've been retired for quite a number of years, but now I spend pretty much all my time volunteering, helping people in job transition. And what I have found is that I networked my way into my next gig. And that I did a lot of freelance work, talked my way into a company, showed them my portfolio, told them what I could do. And they're saying like, well, couldn't you do that for us? Can't you make that brochure? Can't you do that postcard? Can't you do this thing for me? And that's how I got work. Skill to a certain extent. So now I share this with everybody that's on my radar basically and stuff. So I've also, for almost 2 decades now, I've created this network event list, and I try to post every event out there that I can possibly find. And it was more geared to people in job transition, but sometimes I have to put something on there that's just fun because you just need a little fun every once in a while. But the idea is that you never know who you're going to meet. You never know who they know. And I'm finding more and more, it's not what you know, it's who you know to get that job, to get that advancement, to get to that next goal that you're looking for. And I'm finding with the younger generation and the older generation, they don't know how to do this. They've never really had to do this before. The older generation, they thought, they're going to work for the same company and they get the gold watch. Well, guess what? I designed the gold watch for one of my companies and we never gave a single one of them away. And that nobody made it that far. And, the younger generation, they usually leapfrog almost every 2 years and stuff. It's not necessarily a leap up, it's more lateral. And that because you just think, okay, the green might be, greener on this side of the fence. And what I try to tell people is be very strategic, interview the companies you really want to go after, have more than 3 contacts in each company, because if somebody has a downsizing, you don't want to lose all your contacts at one, big swoop. And but, really make them create the position for you. If you have this idea of this dream job, then make them go create it for you. And so I try to go on to as many webinars as I can. There was 15 webinars today just that I had on my master list. So sometimes I'm like, I have like 3 computers going at once and my phone because I can't do them all. But if I get the recording, I can go back and do the recording. But I mean, this is what I do. This is what I try to do. I try to instill people that you have no idea the powerful people you can meet on a webinar, and you have no idea what they could do and be your mentor. So that's my spiel.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice. Thank you so much, Julie. You always have great advice and you always ask great questions. Keisha D, would you like to introduce yourself, please? Keisha, do you hear me?
You're on mute.
Keisha, you're on mute. Okay, we'll go to Emily, who just recently joined the event. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah,
for a
sure.
second, Emily?
Hi, everyone. And I can empathize with what Julie just mentioned. I'm finishing up my workday currently as well. So I just popped on to kind of catch up and hear what was happening in your session. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, work in the healthcare industry as a field service manager for cancer diagnostic equipment. So that's me.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I forgot I was on mute. This is our second event. Emily, what hurdles have you faced in the workforce that you believe that you had to overcome to kind of achieve that next goal?
I mean, I can speak most recently to 16 plus years in the aviation industry, and which is certainly currently decimated by what's happening. I also became a new mom at the beginning of the year, so I've had a couple of things to deal with and overcome this year. And as previously mentioned, now in the healthcare industry. So certainly a lot of selling of myself, most recently in the in the interview process through kind of early summer timeframe, and now into my current role. But networking, discussion of transferable skills, and in a great place now. So there were some dark days, but now everything's going well for me, and happy to share that story. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That's a wonderful story. And being able to balance everything and being having a newborn is also always a hurdle to overcome. And that's a lot of work. So I definitely respect you for being able to do everything to kind of make it happen. My name is Renika Smalley, and I am the founder and CEO of Generation Now Cincinnati Network. And I guess my living room background just doesn't want to work today, so I'm just going to take it off so you guys can actually see me. I always try to have my living room background up. And so my name is Renika J. Smalley, founder and CEO of Generation Now. So I believe my biggest career hurdle for me being a young professional was really just overcoming poverty and not allowing any obstacles to stop me for where I needed to be in life. Like poverty, coming from an upbringing where I shouldn't even be here on a call, shouldn't be a founder of an organization, shouldn't have finished college or anything. I should be living in maybe, a lower level in life. And I could have been one of those type of people, but I strive for more and strive for better, and had to know that I had to put in extra work to understand things. I had to put in extra work to understand life outside of poverty and lower working class, because that's what my parents were, even though I had cousins and other relatives that were in upper class and upper middle class, and kind of everyone around them had professional jobs. Like even one of our programs with Generation Now, we're working with the high school program in Warren County. Warren County is like predominantly the county of predominantly white, upper, middle, or upper class citizens live in that county. And I seen the difference from when we work with Cincinnati Public Schools and when we work with Warren County. Cincinnati Public Schools, they want speakers and young professional mentors to just come in. They just want anybody to come in. They don't care who you are, your degree background. They don't care if you finished school, if you're doing something positive. It just come in and talk to these kids at Cincinnati Public School. At Warren County, the program that we're working with, I'm like, okay, just give me a list of the interests that the students have of career professionals that they want to talk to. They want to talk to a OB/GYN. I mean, they want to talk to a lawyer. They know what doctors they want to hear from. They know what kind of nurses they want to hear from. They know what kind of professionals, and less of those professionals want to hear from entrepreneurs versus Cincinnati public school professionals that see that more minority small business owners seem to them more appealing. Then in Warren County, to them, it seems more appealing of a doctor and a lawyer. They seem more appealing. Their career seems stable, and that's what they're used to seeing in their environment. So I definitely seen the change. So I feel like that was one of my career hurdles, even though how determined I always kind of felt like I was stressed out from my environment, but I overcame that and continued to grow. And so that's a little bit, I guess that helps. I know that's different from what everybody else was saying, but I felt like that was more organic to my original feeling of my career hurdles. And so I would like to begin a panel discussion. The best way to view the panel discussion is in speaker view. So if you like to put your Zoom view in speaker view so you can so you can view the actual panelists. So tonight we have two panelists that couldn't join us. And that was Debra from Coca-Cola. She actually had a death in the family last week. So this week she's focused on funeral plans. And then we also had another speaker that couldn't join last minute. So tonight we have Nichole Sims of Enterprise Holdings, and we have Kenneth Johnson of president of East Coast Executives. He's also a Forbes coach and TEDx organizer. And we also have Laura, from Spotify. And so those are three panelists today. And I think that will probably be good because that'll give more time for us to get through questions and more time for people to ask Q&As. So the first question that I would like to ask is to Laura. What obstacles did you have with to achieving that goal of finding your first job after college, which is still kind of hard for some young professionals? I know some young professionals that have decided to go back to graduate school because after they graduated with their undergraduate, it was hard for them to find an actual job. And so when you found your job a year after graduation, I believe you were part-time working at Spotify before you began your full-time position.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think one of the biggest not getting the job that I thought I was gonna have. So when I graduated, I was interviewing with this company, and like I was one of the last two, and I thought that was the job I was gonna have when I graduated. And then they told me the day after I graduated, hey, nope, it's not gonna happen. So I had to really had to like buckle down with myself and understand like what job would I be willing to take at this moment. And I think one of the reasons why I didn't go to grad school and one of the reasons why I didn't decide to like take that year off was because I had loans to pay and I had to like make sure that I was being financially responsible in that decision. So I think my advice would just be like, when you come to that point of not getting that dream job that you thought you were going to get, it's really about being able to like sit and think about the options that you have and the skills that you have. And my skills led me to education. So my first year out of college, I was a 5th grade English teacher. And the skills that I learned there gave me a resilience beyond something I think would have happened if I did a gap year. And because I taught, and then I taught in a pandemic, I was able to kind of like realize that like education wasn't exactly where I wanted to stay, but there were some skills that I had that could allow me to pivot into something else. And having the skills of teaching and knowing how to make sure that I'm getting people's attention and communicate allowed me to get a part-time role in podcasting. And eventually that transitioned into my full-time role now with Spotify for Artists. So to go back to the original answer, I think the biggest obstacle was not getting the job that I wanted and allowing myself to like responsibly pivot into a career that would allow me to be comfortable, but also would use the skills that I had gained in college.
Absolutely. And those college loans don't stop. After graduation, so you got to work somewhere. And so my question to Nichole, as a talent acquisition manager that brings in a lot of recent graduates or new hires, what do you see as some of the top challenges that a lot of recent graduates or new hires have with not getting the job? So you know who you're picking to get it, but who are with the people that you don't pick? Why? Like, what are some of the whys?
Okay, so where are they falling short that causes us to pass on that person and hire someone else?
Yes.
Okay. It can be a number of things. Now, there you can look at the competencies, you can look at the different qualifications that we look for. So it could be, I hire for a sales position, so maybe they fall short in sales experience. But then there are some other things. You can fall short in communication. The problem with the interview process is the interview is only going to be as good as the person conducting the interview. And someone like me, I've been doing it a long time, so I can get answers out of anybody. But if you're sitting in front of a hiring manager who doesn't hire on a regular basis, then you may not get they might ask the probing questions to get all the information out of the person. So you've got to come into the interview prepared. You have to spend time beforehand researching that company, looking at the position to see what the qualifications are, figuring out 3 to 5 examples for each area, so that even if you get a curveball, you still have an answer in your arsenal. So that's where things kind of fall apart. And there's so many people I see who have the experience, but number one, it either doesn't show up on their resume. So I don't even know they have the experience. People who have had their own businesses, students with their own businesses, and they say, oh, I didn't think I could put it down if I wasn't paid for it. It's like, I don't care if you did something for free. Experience is experience. So, you can shoot yourself in the foot there as the individual coming in by not preparing as well. And then what's beyond your control is the hiring manager. So do your best to give the full story in the interview so that you don't miss out just because that person isn't a good interviewer, because that can happen as well.
Absolutely. I truly agree with that. I know before in the past, we have had data and research that showed that some people, like introverts or people with a lot of high anxiety, they don't do well at interviews, but they could still be great candidates. And so it's like, for that situation, what do you do to try to still differentiate if they're worth, hiring or not?
So what do we do on say that again, repeat that for me, please.
On your end, when you run into candidates that may have high anxiety or may not be good with interviewing, but you know that they have the skills or expertise or the resume to do it, how do you determine if they're a right fit for hiring them?
I make it a conversation. Now, I didn't come out the box this way. In '99, when I started recruiting, I would have never been able to do that. But now I'm to the place, I find myself almost in a position of a coach in the interview. Did I have one today? Yesterday, I interviewed somebody. If I can see on your resume where that experience is, and you're just giving me a bad answer, just a bad answer, then I might say, oh, I saw that you were a shift manager at Kohl's. What were some of the things you did as a shift manager? And I'll just leave them meander down the trail into an answer. So they might say, oh, yeah, I had to do inventory. Oh, that must be tough. Did you have a really tough night in inventory? Oh, yeah, I remember this one night. Oh, tell me what happened there. And I'll just make it a conversation. But I also start out the interview by making the person comfortable in the first place, because I don't want to meet nervous Renika. I want to meet Renika. Nervous Renika does me no good. So I'm going to spend the first 5 or 10 minutes just chatting with the person. How are you doing? Oh, what'd you do over the weekend? How are you getting through the pandemic? Okay, things like that. And just make them comfortable to begin with. And I can see people visibly relax because I take that time. And when we train our hiring managers, we try to train them to do the same thing. But I interview hundreds of people, so it's easy for me. You only interview on occasion. It's hard to kind of get that skill set down. So again, there's some responsibility on your part as the interviewee, and there's some responsibility on our part as the interviewer.
Absolutely. So Kenneth, what are some eye openers or hurdles or red flags do you see that young professionals can work on in the working class, professional world, and also business professional, young professionals?
Yeah, so just hurdles that I think people might overlook. I mean, of course, everybody has all the standard stuff, right? Use the STAR technique for behavioral based interviewing, know what it is that you want to do. All of that stuff's fine. But as a recruiter, and especially in the light that we work in here as a diversity recruitment firm and pretty much an executive search firm, when we see young professionals, one of the things that we always look for, like I have a team of recruiters here, immediately, as soon as they see your resume, they Google you. And so they run through your social media profiles and things of that nature. And I think the hurdle is that often young professionals don't tie those, they don't connect those dots, right? You're bringing your whole self to work, truly, but even before you even get to speak to anyone that's part of either a hiring team or an organization, chances are that they've already done some research on you as well. So I think that's probably the hurdle, just not understanding how the minute you hit submit on that application, you're already in the interview process.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so my next question to all panelists, and I'll begin with Lauren. What advice would you give to someone starting out at this time during COVID-19? Does it present certain challenges that need to be tackled in a different way in today's workforce with coronavirus, with the COVID-19 issue?
Yeah, I think my biggest advice is the job's not gonna come to you. It's not. Like, I think one of the biggest things that I had to do was I would like dabble in people's LinkedIn messages, but I wouldn't really do too much. But now it's just like, it was really important to me now was like, hey, can we talk about like what's happening in your field? How can I learn more? How can I join? Not necessarily asking people for jobs, but taking the opportunity to network and to learn. And I think for recent grads like me, you only feel like you only have to reach out when it's like necessary. But I think it's important to remember a connection. And I have people that remembered me from like 2016, networking with them about Spotify, showing that interest. So I say that my biggest advice is like, understand that if you were or following people or learning more about people, now is the time to kind of like throw that away and create a professional alter ego and just start going out and trying to network as much as possible, because everybody's at home, sort of. Everybody's at home. So now it's time to like utilize that.
Thank you so much for your response. It's a hustle, and even with everything going on in the country right now, we all have to, have that hustler ambition to really go out there, even in alternative ways. Nichole, what advice would you give to a young professional that's on the job search now during the coronavirus?
Well, I think this goes even if we're not in a pandemic. Make sure you're going for the right position. I work in an industry where you are dealing with customers on a face-to-face basis, and we're taking all precautions that we need to take to keep everybody safe. But not everybody is comfortable in that environment. So if that's not your environment, then don't go for that position. Secondly, I mean, there are really only two choices now. You're either going to be dealing with customers, face to face, or more than likely working from home. Now, personally, I have found that working from home is a great idea on paper, and I've had to figure out how to make it work for me. So, and I'm doing both right now. So I actually like going into the office, but you've got to plan out your day so that you are disciplined. So you are getting up on time. You're getting still the proper rest. You have a good workspace, that you have something to break up the time between work and personal time and so forth. So I think that's one of the things to think about. Environment has become very important. If you're somebody that likes to be out and about, then that's the position you should go for. So for what that's worth.
I keep forgetting that I'm muted. Absolutely. You have to just keep going for gold. And also, depending on your health background, your health background, what works for you, if it's good for you to find a job that's remote. I know that in Cincinnati, Fidelity Investments is hiring for all remote positions. That's something that I would go for. If you feel like you are comfortable being in a new job environment, in an office environment, go for it. Me, I would go for whatever's going to pay my bills. But I would caution from more physical working places, only because I'm high risk. But that's my reason. Kenneth, what would you caution, and especially you being in Harlem, New York, because I know New York, they got really impacted by the coronavirus, and I know Laura is in New York too. So I feel like your questions and response will be very interesting to hear.
Hold on, we got another New Yorker on here?
Yeah, Laura's
Really?
from
Okay.
Well, she went to Spelman. She's at New York at Spotify.
Nah. Okay. I'm sorry. Where you live? You live in the city?
I'm in Brooklyn.
Oh, okay. Tell everybody over there I said hello. Listen, so I'm originally from Philly though, but I've lived in Harlem for 20 years. So anyway, to answer your question, I think it's really important to, as a job seeker, right, and as a young professional, to figure out kind of exactly where you add value, especially in COVID-19, right? And the reason why that's so important is that the name of the game now is networking, and typically your network, so where you add value, don't be afraid of networking. We did a Grow with Google segment. I'm the facilitator at the Grow with Google Learning Center here in Manhattan, but when the pandemic hit, we took it on air. So Grow with Google on air, and we did a segment. I did a workshop called Tap into Networking to Find Your Next Job, right? And so that's what it was about. Where do you add value? Then who do you network with to share that value that can support your career search? But the only way you can do that in COVID-19 is really to embrace technology, right? So young professionals typically are the people that are most comfortable with technology and with social media and how to navigate that space. So that's the advantage point. But once you circle that back around, are you comfortable networking? Do you know where you add value? Because there's a lot of people out here in the landscape looking to make a pivot or looking for a new job. So with that being said, the competition is stiff. So how do you separate yourself from that? And the way you do it is to, I'm sorry, what was it? Julia spoke about this earlier. That kind of who you know piece comes into play, but you can know everybody, but if you can't share how you can support them, then you're kind of swimming in water, right? And we want to get to the land, you know, and the way to do that is to know exactly what it is that you bring to the table. And so the three things, value, technology, and networking, I think are key in a COVID-19 job search.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so I'll start with you again, Kenneth, for our next question. So if you can put together a toolkit for young professionals for essentials, the bundle of essentials that they need to prepare for the next position, what are they? Is that mentorship for access to network, access to more of network so they can leverage those connections? Is it networking harder, or what resume, or how can they stand out?
All right, so this is it's like a two-part question in a sense, right? So if you're already internally at an organization, right? Mm-hmm. The things you need in your toolkit, you need a mentor and a sponsor, right? Those are the two items in your toolkit if you're internal. If you're external, you probably could use the mentor, but you're going to need to leverage LinkedIn. I believe it's so important right now. I think a lot of people are focusing. We do resume writing as well here at East Coast Executives, and we do LinkedIn profiles. And I get so many people that are just focused on getting this perfect resume, which I don't really believe exists. But I do believe that you can use your LinkedIn profile to immediately connect with people like I'm sorry, is it Nichole? Yeah, to connect with people like Nichole and to connect with people like Laura. And that can happen this evening, where your resume might go into an applicant tracking system and have to fight that battle with 500 other resumes. But if you connect with Nichole tonight on LinkedIn, there's a chance that she can look at your profile and see something in there that's of interest to her and want to engage and make you part of her network. And I think that's invaluable. So those are the two things, but on both sides of the ledger.
Absolutely. Same question to you, Nichole. What do you need? What do you believe that young professionals need in their toolkit to prepare them for that next position or for that next advancement in their career inside of their organization?
Yeah, I would echo what Kenneth said for sure. What we're actually being taught as recruiters, at least in our organization, is that if you post a job and people apply for the job, they call that pray and wait, and we get our best candidates when we go and find them because we know what we're looking for. And those are the ones that tend to stay with the company a little bit longer and so forth. So on your LinkedIn page, have out there that you're looking for, that you're open for an opportunity. Have your resume posted there so I can find you when I go out and browse resumes. Essentials are also be available. I cannot tell you how many people hang up on me when I call them who applied for a job. Okay, hang up. She's not here. Okay, well, she doesn't have a job, and I keep it moving. And then they'll realize that it was me. I'll send them a text message immediately and say, thank you for your interest. Given the hang up, I'm assuming that you are no longer interested in this opportunity. Good luck in your career search. And I'll call back, oh, I made a mistake. Yes, you did. So yeah, be available. If you're looking for a job, never do that. If you don't recognize the phone number, don't answer. Don't answer. Let them leave a voicemail, call them back. So be available. An essential is that you are, that you have integrity, that you are showing who you are and who you're going to be in that organization. So you have to have a great reputation. That is, so it's branding. It boils down to branding. And that is in every way. We talked about social media earlier. I don't care whether you're working or you're not, because if you're working and you have some things that show up on your social media, you may not be working any longer. Okay. Even if it is private. Okay. Because you do still represent that organization in a lot of ways, especially if you're wearing some gear from that organization. So you want to make sure that you have a good brand. You shouldn't be two different people at work and at home. It doesn't mean that your character changes, but you have to have solid character. That is a career essential. He already touched on mentoring. He touched on sponsorship as well. Strong communication skills. You're dealing with people from all walks of life. Now, if that is a challenge for you, then there's no shame in having a challenge, but do something about it. If you have problems with spelling and things of that nature, have somebody check out your work. I do it all the time, because if you're sending something out to the organization, that is a part of your makeup, and you want to make sure that you're still having a great reputation within the organization. And I could say a whole lot more, but there are other people, so I'll leave it at that.
Absolutely.
I'm long-winded, Renika.
Yeah, I know, but you have a great response, especially from a teacher perspective and a talent acquisition perspective. Laura, my question to you: while the next young professional who's a recent graduate from college is on their hustle to land that first job, what do they need in their toolkit to kind of have that turnkey opportunity?
Yeah, I agree with everybody. So I'll just talk a little bit about what those things meant for me. So one of the biggest things was having a mentor. So when I interned at Spotify, I got an intern. I didn't get an intern. I got a mentor, and that mentor was like shopping me around when I had to go back to school. So it's always about like having someone on the inside, if you're not there yet, who is going to like look out for you, because I didn't find out until recently that she had created this one pager about why people needed to hire me on their teams. So it's just making sure that you have someone there, or you're at least making connections so they know your skill set. And then I think a big one for LinkedIn that a lot of recent grads like struggle with, or just like people in college struggle with, is sometimes people think if I put in some profile tidbits, say a little bit about what I did, maybe include a picture, my LinkedIn's done, people are going to want to talk to me. And I think one of the biggest things that people in like my age group need to like realize is you have to have a full LinkedIn. It needs to tell a story. It needs to say, okay, well, I was here. This is the project that I worked on. Here were some accomplishments. Here's what somebody thinks about me. Here's a little story about where I want to go. Like one thing that I really made sure that I did was when I began my professional job search for the career I wanted, I was updating every time something came in the news about something that I did. So I worked on Spotify Kids when I was in 2018 when I interned, and it didn't come out until like the beginning of 2019. And that post went viral because I said, hey, I worked on this. This is what I did. You can ask these people. So I think it's just making sure that you're not just treating LinkedIn like a resume that can be found online. You're treating it like a social network that can get you to the job that you want. So yeah, that's it.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great response. And so I got the next question I wanted to ask, and I'll start with you, Lauren. So what do you believe is the toolkit option if you had to pick more courses for skill set training, mentorship, or networking? What do you feel like is the top essential skills that young professionals, recent college graduates should focus on?
I think the top skill right now is just like refining your virtual networking skills. Because a lot of times when you just ask for a mentor, it has to be the right situation for the ball to not like drop on either person's side. So I think right now it's just like making sure that you have a script prepared when you want to reach out to a recruiter or somebody who works at a company that you want to go to. Making sure that you're interacting with people's posts in certain places. So I would just say the biggest thing you can have for right now in this climate is like really, really top-notch virtual networking skills. Because if you don't have those and you don't approach the situation as best as you can, you could lose out on an opportunity that you just weren't prepared for. So yeah, I would say put all of your marbles into virtually networking for the time being. And they can also blossom into you knowing how to approach people when we don't have to do it virtually.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, and I feel like virtually makes it kind of easier because you can kind of get into your own comfort space and your own environment that can make you feel more comfortable. The same question to you, Nichole. What do you believe is the top skill that young professionals should focus on in advancement in the workplace? Like if you have already been a young professional 10, 12, 15 years in your career, but you still feel like you haven't advanced, you haven't landed that advancement at your current job, or even you have been looking for an advancement outside of your current job and you still haven't landed that advancement. What advice would you give to that young professional of what skills they would probably need to focus on developing for their toolkit, or maybe a network that they need to enhance?
I would start by asking questions and be ready to receive the answer, because if you've been stuck for that long, you're doing something wrong. You have either maybe developed a poor reputation within your organization if you're not moving ahead, and it might be waiting for you to leave. Okay, so I would ask, I would ask the question. And I remember I did ask that a few years ago. You know, some of our group managers were looking at getting promoted to regional vice president. So I asked the question, you know, once you become an RVP, if you were to promote me to your group, what would you look for? What would you want me to bring to the table as a recruiter for your group? And just to be prepared to hear the answer, because sometimes it's hard to hear constructive criticism. But I tell people all the time, if you hear constructive criticism, it is not easy to tell somebody that they have some flaws. Okay, so if somebody's taking the time to go out of their way to do that for you, it's because they care. Otherwise, they will let you wander around and wonder what's going on. So I think that's it. I think you have to know. It's hard to know what to work on if you don't know what to work on. You mentioned mentorship as well. This is what I'm going to say about mentors. I do not have one formal mentor, but I have mentors. So students always ask for a mentor. People always ask me to be their mentor. I will be your informal mentor all day long, but nobody knows what they want when they ask for a mentor. So make sure if you're going to do that, there is purpose behind it and you're not just checking the box because somebody said you needed one. I can reach out to, I have different projects and things that come up. I have this whole slew of people I can reach out to and say, hey, this is what's going on, need your advice. That's still a mentor, even if you just touch base with them on occasion. So hopefully that's helpful.
Absolutely. I believe that's very helpful. And me, even being a really young professional myself, I have more informal mentors. I have mentors that don't even know they're my mentor. Nichole's my mentor, and she doesn't know she's my mentor. Kenneth is my mentor. I brag about him all the time, and we only had a couple of conversations, and he's all the way in New York and Harlem. And I was just talking about Harlem to a friend the other day. One of my closest friends, she lives in Brooklyn too. And so she was in town. We were talking about Harlem, how Harlem is pretty much included in Manhattan as well. It's like, is that correct?
Harlem is just a neighborhood in Manhattan, just like
Yeah.
Chelsea, Soho, whatever. Like Harlem's just above 110th Street.
Absolutely. And that's what we were talking about, because she lives in Brooklyn. And so, and I was talking about Harlem, how Harlem is really just Manhattan. We were just discussing with a friend who's never been, she's only been in Manhattan. She's never been in any other place, because whenever she went to New York, it was only for traveling for work. And so
that's actually, it's interesting to me. I don't get that. Like people just automatically assume that Harlem's some other place on some side of like in the middle of the water or something, but it's Manhattan. It's just a neighborhood in Manhattan.
Mhm.
So yeah, so interesting. Yeah, let them know out there.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And so I may be coming to New York soon. I may bump into Jonathan or Laura out there. And so, especially since I'll be in Brooklyn. And so it's the same question to you, Kenneth. What do you feel like if a professional, okay, let me speak on terms of maybe a professional from a non-traditional background, working class professional that kind of had to hustle themselves up to the next level, but they have kind of hit that ceiling, that plateau, and they may blame it on maybe not having the degrees that they need for that advancement. Can you provide to them what's actually holding them back? What's that hurdle, and what needs to be in that toolkit to kind of leverage, even if they came from a non-traditional background?
Yeah, so everybody's hurdle can be like, it's unique to them, right? So I can't speak on in general like what a person's hurdle could be, but I will say this: I haven't seen one person that is committed and or invested in continuous learning have that hurdle. And now we're in an environment where there's a disruption in traditional education. Google and Coursera are doing some amazing things with some of the online offerings that they have that can allow people to advance their careers or even make career pivots for that matter. And I think if people can convey that they've continuously embraced continuous learning, then that hurdle will no longer exist. And even if it does exist, they position themselves really well to make a pivot. And if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. But I just think that's the thing. If you can leverage that, and if you know how to share that in a conversation as well, right? But I think those things speak volumes to hiring managers, hiring influencers, recruiters, and even internal stakeholders about who you are as a person, if you continue to keep learning even after your formal education was exhausted.
Absolutely. And so it's 6:42. The event, I believe the hard stop for the event is at 7 p.m. So I want to leave room the next 18 minutes to the guests of the event to kind of ask panelists questions. And so feel free to ask your questions.
I have a question for some of the folks who have dealt with recruiting young people. I am specifically working with a number of generation college students. So they haven't, I was a first generation college student, so walked into college without a lot of experience to find my way, and did. But I find that that's a struggle. It's a struggle to help them get ready for interviewing and focused while they're going to school, and get ready along the way while they're at school, instead of cramming it all into the last semester. So if you have any advice for kind of develop them and supporting them better than we're doing right now, I would hear it.
I'll jump in. I guess the simple term is exposure, right? When do you start exposing people to opportunities? I'm a first generation college student. Well, no, I'm a first generation college graduate, right? My father went to school for a little while, but they never even told me what a syllabus was before I left for school, right? I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't know what it was. But and I show up at the University of Maryland not knowing this, right? But what my parents did a really good job of was exposing me to other careers. And then when I got to the University of Maryland, it was an interesting dynamic. But for us, we had a traditional counselor, and then we had an African American studies counselor. Like, we had somebody, if you wanted to work with them, that could kind of walk you through the path as a diverse student, as an African American student. And initially, I didn't understand the importance of that, but I think the exposure to that really introduced me to some professionals in the Washington, D.C. area that could kind of point me toward different career paths and kind of support and teach me what I needed to learn to move forward. We live in a great time right now because the information that I had to run around the whole city and try to receive, right? So
Right.
You can get it at one stop, and usually you got people like Nichole or people like Laura or anyone else that's on the panel that is willing to share that type of information. So I just think that, just kind of introducing them and exposing them to different ways to connect.
Thank you.
And Robin, I would add to that, where do they hang out? So is that first generation student, which I was too, clueless, took 2 years, didn't take enough credits for, we won't even talk about how long, because I was full-time because I was on the track team, but I should have been taking more, but whatever, all's well that ends well. But where do they hang out? Are they just coming in the evenings? Like if they're commuting and maybe you can't get a hold of them because they're doing the evening classes, but is there some way, because you guys have a collective goal as a university, is there some way to get into the classes and just speak a little bit and talk about strategy? Because that's one thing I find that everybody is lacking. Well, most people are lacking, can't say everybody, but most students are lacking a strategic plan to get from freshman to senior and to land a job. And most professors tell us, and I guess I would say the same thing, just the class that I had, they're going to listen to people who have the jobs. So if you are able to bring employers in, and don't let them know, I know Rob and I go back, but I never make it the enterprise show. When I come in, I want to be a part of your syllabus, and I want to tell you, give you the real deal. So they're going to listen to somebody from the outside over their professor. So if you can get a little bit of airtime from local people, from local recruiters to get in there and specifically to talk about strategic planning, go to the fairs as a freshman, go to the fair as a sophomore. It's research so that you can plan out your next few years so that you are ready for that job when it opens up.
Thank you.
You know what? So Nichole and Robin and everybody. So I guess it was a year ago, pre-pandemic, right? I went to the University of Maryland to speak on behavioral-based interviewing, right? And it was in Hornbeck Library, and there's a career services department there. I didn't even know it was there. That was the first time I was ever in it. I was coming back to speak. I'm like, how long has this been here? So I didn't even know that those services were offered. So, I wasn't exposed to it. I was with the wrong people, to Nichole's point. Yeah, so it's just about exposure.
And I would say, Robin, another group might be athletes.
then-
I was an athlete, so that's where I was hanging out, was with athletics. And Lord knows you guys have a lot of athletes at Thomas More, so
Yes, we do.
that's the place to be.
To some extent, that can be very, I don't want to say part of the problem, but so many of our students are athletes, they work and they go to school. So it's hard to get to them. So I think what you're saying is, well, you've got them trapped in class. So get your employers in then.
Can I add something though? Because like,
Please.
as a person who was just in the seat, it's easy to say just have people in front of you and like have them speak to you. But if they've graduated like 10 years ago, I'm kind of like, all right, that's nice. So I think it's important to, another level of that is having people who are in recent grad levels, like a 2017, a 2015, because you can't, the job market is very different and the journey is very different. And I don't think LinkedIn and Twitter and things like that were utilized as much in the job search as they are now. So I would just say if the vision is having people speak to them and exposure of having like those services, it's also important to have people who were just in their seat maybe like a couple years ago and talk about how they made their journey to this specific jobs that they're in.
I have noticed that, and I agree with what you're saying. I just attended an employer panel last night for our history department, and I was stunned. I mean, the connection between the panelists and the students was amazing. Thank you.
I have a question I'd like to ask. Is one of the things, and it sort of relates to me even personally, is as you're building sort of a digital presence online, you know, so maybe before you're looking or as you're looking, and you know, everybody talks about LinkedIn, of course, and but my question also, and just to carry on, this is going through my mind as I was listening to the conversation, and Laura just kind of hit that point, is, so my question sort of is for the panelists, like, so Nichole, Kenneth, and Robin, you know, I think I see myself relating to each of you, dare I say it, because we're perhaps in a similar generation based on our years of experience. But Laura, as a recent graduate, and for many others in her generation, see the world very differently in having a sort of a digital footprint and having that presence out on online. So for me, for example, I have a LinkedIn profile, but I'm not on any other social media. I'm not on Facebook, I'm not on Twitter, I'm not on Instagram. And so when I promote myself and my brand, because I'm a consultant, it's all through LinkedIn, it's networking and whatnot. That being said, you know, I kind of mulled over, I don't know if I'm necessarily doing enough. Should I have like other presence? And most people talk about social media. I rarely hear about people saying, well, I have a website. Yes, maybe it goes without saying that I already have a website, but when people are looking for new information, looking to promote themselves, what do you see as sort of the kind of being at the forefront as being necessary? And Laura, I'm definitely interested in your opinion in this, especially because that's where I think I see the mindset being today. Because then in the next generation, you know, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, as we move forward, it's going to be, there are going to be other offerings and other ways for people to get connected.
I can jump in first. I think when it comes to like a website, the only reason I feel like I had a website and a lot of people like who are in my specific range are the fields that we enter. So like I needed a website because I'm in design and I needed to show my portfolio in a very succinct way. And I think if you're utilizing and you're like taking, I think another thing that could help is like taking courses, because LinkedIn Learning offers courses on how to optimize your profile. If that's the only like source of social media that you have, I think if LinkedIn is the sole, I froze. Oh, okay. I think if LinkedIn is the sole site that you're using, the best thing that you can do is just, instead of putting more work on yourself to build a site and to figure out what you're going to do, I think it would be to like be the best that you can there. A site is not bad if you like want to end up doing like speaking engagements and different projects like that. But I just know for people in my range, the only reason I had a site was because I needed to present my portfolio for jobs. And it was a clear way of like doing that.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
I would add to that, where's your client? So if your client is all on LinkedIn or word of mouth and you can maximize your clientele that way, then LinkedIn is fine. But like for me, I'm a writer. I didn't say that at the top, but I'm a writer and I have all these other things, and it's a young professional audience. So that means Instagram. It means, all the places, and not so much Facebook, but Instagram and all the places that they hang out that I may not necessarily want to hang out, but that's where I need to hang out. So I think you look at where your audience is, and you have to be in that place as well.
Great point.
Agree
Thank
with
you.
all of that. I'm just going to agree with all of that. Laura said something really interesting though, right? Like, so if you're going to be at a place, be there and do that well, right? You're never going to the platforms, and you're going to drive yourself crazy if you try to.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I feel like each of the platforms can be like a really deep rabbit hole too. You just keep obtaining more information, get lost in the details, and you're constantly checking it for updates or whatever that might be, and then suddenly you're always online, you're always connected, and not necessarily making connections, that could be very helpful and valuable. So, and that's one of the reasons why I personally have avoided having other social media myself, is because I know I do get lost on LinkedIn sometimes. I do spend a lot of time on it, for a number of different reasons. And so I feel like, oh, wow, if I'm in one, I think I can only imagine if I had files out there. I mean, my goodness, it's overwhelming. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. So I'm not a panelist at all, but from my research, all the research that I have spent time doing, because it's relevancy and how you market yourself. And so in my first career field is marketing and promotions. So it's kind of like my second nature to always kind of see what's the next updates of marketing and what to do. So for marketing your personal brand, the new thing that people are doing is offering courses or podcasts. Even volunteer projects is really big. A lot of people are doing volunteer projects, just like volunteer projects that's worth their resume, because that gains their skill set for their personal brand platform. Seeking other opportunities of consulting, even partnering with the Economic Development Center of Cincinnati. They bring in a lot of contracts. That's also a jewel drop to Nichole, if she doesn't already know. They have a lot of contracts that they offer for consultants to come in for business development and professional development. And they're always looking for minorities, because that's what they're trying to strengthen more in the Cincinnati region. And I believe the best person to ask that question to is Kenneth Johnson, because even though he's not a millennial, even though he's not a Gen Zer, this man, his personal brand is amazing for his expertise of, I had to look at his resume. He started his first recruitment job in 1997. I was in elementary school. And so he still is relevant.
You're going to put it out there, right? I was fortunate enough to really have a clear understanding of what I wanted to do in college. Like, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to own my own staffing firm. I'm from an amazing neighborhood with amazing people, but there wasn't a ton of opportunity. And I always thought, wow, if I could own a firm where I could, and initially it was going to be a staffing firm, right? And I was like, if I can own a firm where I can introduce the people from my neighborhood to jobs. I didn't even have friends whose parents worked. Like, this is kind of where I'm from. And I just wanted to, that was my solution. And it didn't work out that way, but it still led me down the path to where I'm at now, doing executive recruitment, having my own firm, and kind of working that piece and helping people get jobs. Great relationships with the National Urban League. I host a digital career success series show for them. Great relationships with the New York Urban League, the Urban League of Philadelphia. But it's just allowed me to kind of, that's my gift back. So I'm not even sure what the original question was, but I wanted to explain that piece of kind of my journey.
It was more on the lines of how to personal brand yourself,
yeah,
as like a consultant or advisor. What are the essential package that you need?
Listen, there's only one thing you need. you just have to really, really sincerely want to help people. If you motivation behind everything you do, like, listen, all of us are here tonight. It's 7 o'clock. My son hasn't had dinner yet. He's probably looking at me, but I want to help people, and you reached out, so we're here to help, right? And we're here to support, and we're here to add value. I really honestly believe that if that's your motivation to the work you do, man, you'll be all right out here. Your brand will speak for itself, because people will understand that it's sincere and it's real and it's legitimate. So with that being said, you know, I think it's really that simple. I really do. It sounds what do they call it? Pie in the sky, but it's the truth. Seek to add value, and your brand, that stuff that'll fold in.
Absolutely. You have to put in sweat equity in the beginning, and you want to just focus on what you are passionate in. And generosity always gets you a long way, but you also have to put a dollar sign to the investment that you bring to the table. And so when time calls for it, I should say. So that's my advice, and I'm not a panelist again, but I always like to give feedback where CES, especially since this is an organization that I founded. I'm so passionate in just helping people. And so are there any more questions out there? That's all the questions? Okay, well, we had a hard stop for the event at 7 p.m. And so I thank everyone for coming out. This is our second virtual event. It's a little smaller than it was a lot smaller than the first event, but that's fine. It gave us more intimacy and time to have a conversation with everyone. I have put inside the comment box, if you guys would like to sign up for our next event, which is the salary negotiation event for the thriving young professional. And that event takes place January 14, 2020. And this is a free mini course to our course launch for it's the same name of the event, how to advance in the workplace with your essential package toolkit, the bundle to get you prepared for that. So if you would like to attend that next event, July 14th, God damn it, excuse my language, January 14th, 2021. And so we also are launching some new programs for 2021 virtually for young professionals that you would I would insist to look out for a newsletter. If you're not already subscribe to our website, take the time to subscribe it. And we can't wait to present to you what we have planned. So thank everyone for coming out tonight. If you would like to sign up for the next event, you can grab it out of the chat. And I believe that's it. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you all.
Kenneth, for
Thank
keeping
you.
your
Thank you all for
commitment.
joining us.
Have a good evening.
You too.